Pasakojimai iš viso pasaulio. Apie žmonės, kurie turi tikslą. Gyvenimus įkvepiančius vertinti tai, ką turime. Pastangas, kad pasaulis būtų visų ir visiems. Apie tai, ką reiškia būti žmogumi. Festivaliuose įvertinta dokumentika. Rubrika Žmogiškas mastelis. Pirmadieniais 21:30 per LRT+.
Good afternoon and welcome to Women in Biotech 2021, Women Empower Teams. Women in Biotech is first and only platform in Lithuania encouraging women leadership in the life science and biotechnology sector. Today you will meet notable female entrepreneurs, scientists and activists who will share their innovation success stories in order to support Women in Biotech goal. Inspire the next generation of leaders and innovators. Women in Biotech is organized by Lithuanian Biotechnology Association, and it's second year in a row. We're very happy about it. I would like to present this year's partners and sponsors that made this event happen. Main media partner, Lithuanian National Television and Radio, and you can also view broadcast on their portal lrt.lt. Our trusted partners, Enterprise Lithuania, Vilnius University Life Science Center, and Thermo Fisher Scientific. Our international partners, EuropaBio, European Connected Health Alliance, as well as our local supporters, Sunrise Valley Science and Technology Park and 2AM Health. Thank you for your support. I'm happy to introduce the moderators of today of Women in Biotech event. Next to me is Dr. Monika Paule, an entrepreneur, innovator, and CEO of company Kazai, and myself, Executive Director of Lithuanian Biotechnology Association.
So thank you, Agne, and hello to everyone. It's great to be here and already for the second year to moderate Women in Biotech 2021. And this year we focus how women empower teams. And the event was really successful among a wide audience last year, and especially women who found inspiration from the amazing speakers we had last year.
So we hope to follow and have more inspired participants today as well. I would like, for the start of our event today, to ask and welcome our participants and give a welcome speech, the president of Lithuanian Biotechnology Association, Tomas Andrijauskas. Hello, Thomas. The floor is yours.
Hello, Agne. Hello, everyone. Dear honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen, It's my great pleasure to congratulate all of you on the occasion of Women in Biotech 2021. The success of this platform from the last year has been a strong impulse for this event to come back this year with a new power and new perspectives. The Lithuanian Biotechnology Association is very proud to host this event. Few words about association. We unite over 100 industry and academia members, including universities and research institutes, large corporations, small and medium-sized companies, various startups, and individual researchers. It was very successful year for Lithuanian biotechnology sector. In general, the sector's revenue climbed to 2 billion euros in 2020. Sector generates close to 2.5% of gross domestic product in Lithuania. That's one of the highest numbers of such kind in Europe. We added 10% to new students enrolled in different biotech study programs and contributed a lot to the management of COVID-related pandemics, from new research tools to the manufacturing of vaccine components. Speaking about Women in Biotech event, which is the second event, well, first of all, positive feedback and support from Lithuanian bioindustry leaders we received last year. That allowed us to broaden the event in terms of geography. The speakers come from different European countries with completely different backgrounds and experiences. I have no doubts that the stories of these 4 speakers will positively inspire you. And we speak about every one of you because the topic of this year's Women in Biotech is the teams. Teams are a core part of any organization, and various studies show that women can be great team leaders because they generally have excellent communication skills, high level of empathy and emotional intelligence. The latest findings reveal that in Lithuanian biotech sector, there are more women than men, but still there are just few female executives. So I hope that this event will inspire women to be proactive, take initiative, and shed some light on how career barriers got overcome. Last year, Lithuanian biotechnology sector revenue grew by amazing 90%, and Lithuanian Biotech Association sees a huge potential to foster women leadership in biotechnology. Since the revenues of Lithuanian biotech sector have increased 9 times in the last decade, one can imagine that to sustain this breakthrough, we will need to keep building great teams. Women in Biotech platform offers a unique opportunity to meet the leaders, so don't miss this chance. I wish you all of you a very productive time and fruitful discussions. So thank you for your attention and have a great event.
Thank you, Thomas, very much for your welcoming speech. One of our years of partner that has been with the Lithuanian Biotechnology Association and worked hand in hand in contributing to the Lithuanian biotechnology sector is Enterprise Lithuania. And we are very happy to give a floor for Managing Director of Enterprise Lithuania, Daina Klepone, to address her welcoming to this event.
Colleagues, dear friends, dear ladies, it's so nice to see you after 1 year. And this year passed very sudden. I don't know for you, but for me, very sudden. Maybe because of that was a year of change reality, a new reality which brought a lot of challenges to our lives, especially to the lives of us, women. Most of us learned new competences, how to manage your professional life when you are at home, when you have to prepare meals for family, and in some cases even to organize classes for your kids. But challenge never works alone. It always comes with an opportunity. And this pandemic gave an enormous unexpected boost for some sectors of science and business. And biotech sector here comes definitely as a winner. Only this sector last year has grown more than 60% in Lithuania. But even more encouraging trend, what we see in Lithuania is a growth of new businesses in the area of life sciences, and also an increased venture capital attention to Lithuanian biotech startups, which was not definitely a case before pandemic. And in general, startup ecosystem in Lithuania is booming now. Our investments second year are bigger than in very much more matured market as Estonia, for example. However, in the 2020 Startup Heat Map review, the name of the review is Women Entrepreneurs in Europe, is stated that only 15% of founders or co-founders of startups are female in Europe, as well that female CEOs received 38% less funding than their male peers when starting under the same conditions, and that in top ecosystems like Berlin or London, that where less than 1 in 5 business founders are female. Attention, ladies, this is not a case in Lithuania. In Lithuania, 30% of startups founded last year had a female co-founder, and this is slightly more than a year before, about 2-3%. But this is twice more than in Berlin or London. Another interesting finding came from our last year Lithuanian startup survey made by Startup Lithuania, that at least one woman co-founder strongly increases a probability for startup to attract investment. I think this is very encouraging information for you as well. And we should be very proud. We should be very proud of our role, and we should be keeping moving forward and together. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Diana, for the welcoming speech. You are a very important part of our biotech industry, really facilitating its growth and development. So thank you once again for being with us here today. So now I would like to continue Women in Biotech with the 4 exceptional, inspiring, amazing women professionals. And I will give you a quick overview of the program. So today we will listen to 4 women from corporate, startup, venture, and non-governmental fields, and they will share with us their professional experience and how they achieved where they are today. First, we will invite Dr. Claire Skentelbery, Director General of EuropaBio, joining us from Brussels. Then we will continue with the conversation with Judit Camargo, the CEO from Spanish startup company Roka Furadada. Next, we will invite to share insights of women investors with Victoria Betoeski, Managing Partner at the Connecting Architects. And our 4th speaker will be the leadership team member of Janssen company at Johnson & Johnson, Georgiana Cosoveanu.
I would like to encourage an active participation, and we will open the floor for the questions as well. Please use a QR code to connect to platform. You will find it on a screen where you will be able to address your most important questions for our speakers today. I really encourage you to ask these questions. This is a specifically designed platform for this. Okay. It's not these questions just for us, it's for you, so be active. So let's begin.
Yes.
So let's start with our first speaker. I would like to present Dr. Claire Skentelbery, a Director General at EuropaBio. Claire has worked in the development of scientific networks and associations for over 20 years. Last year, she joined EuropaBio and is working with members and the EuropaBio team to position biotechnology as a key technology across all sectors in order to deliver European economic development and global competitiveness. Good afternoon, Claire. How are you today?
Hello, and it's really nice to see you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Dear Claire, we are really happy for you to join this event. And we are hoping that you could share your personal experience as much as you can, and as well as share your vision for women working in the field of biotechnology. Maybe we can start with the story, that the journey that led you to the life sciences. Where did it begin? And do you always knew that you would like to work in the field of science?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. So I think you go right back to when I was in primary and secondary school. I just always really enjoyed biology and the natural world. That was really where it started. And so I just went through school thinking the more biology I can do, the better. I didn't really think about what I wanted to do with it until I had to start to make decisions about what you do after school. But it was the start of a really interesting set of lessons, because I think with all kids, you try and presuppose where you're supposed to end up. You're like, I want to be this, or I want to be that. And in fact, particularly in science, where you start out is never where you end up, primarily because there are always new sectors and types of jobs and types of roles and types of science emerging. So when you start your journey in school, you have no idea where it's going to take you. So I, in fact, because I really liked biology, I had a very interesting idea. I was going to be a marine biologist, and I was going to live on the Barrier Reef, and I was going to study sharks. And it was, interesting. But it became really aware that there's not actually so many jobs in marine biology, and very few people get to live on the Barrier Reef and study sharks. So I actually ended up going to study agriculture, which in fact, and this was at my first degree. So in fact, it was a really useful choice for me as a scientist, because it looked at all aspects of how science is applied. You had the fundamental science underpinning things, and it was then I really learned about biochemistry and really enjoyed biochemistry, because it applied biology in a more sort of detailed way, and it also opened up chemistry, which had been pretty hard for me before that. But also, next to how the science works, it was how the politics works, how the money works, the cultural aspects, the decision-making processes around food production, and how complex it is. So I learned to really enjoy how the science has to be guided from its initial starting point of scientific discovery through to how it makes a difference, how it makes an impact, economically, societally, culturally. And so that was really interesting. And that led me to look very much at my PhD was in plant and crop biochemistry. And so that was really interesting as well, because I was sponsored by a large company. And so as well as having some really interesting science to look at, it also was placed in the context of, well, what decisions are based around the science that we have? Because it was then you really start to understand that just because you have a really great piece of science, if it isn't going to make a difference at the end of the day, if it's not going to displace a current technology, if it's not better or cheaper or faster than a current technology, or there's no particular demand for it, it doesn't matter how fast good the science is, you can't take it to market because nobody is going to buy it. So that was really interesting as well, to look at the much larger decisions that are made around which science to progress and mature. Because as everybody knows, science is a really expensive game and it doesn't happen quickly. So the main point is developing, it's which science will you be able to use at the end of the day. And that involves making a lot of difficult decisions about great science to not progress it further and focus on the thing that you can take to market successfully. And so I was really lucky in my sort of scientific understandings that it sat within a much larger context. And that, in fact, at the end of my PhD was what I really decided that I liked more, not the science itself, but the structure in which science sits. And, and I have to be honest, I wasn't the best scientist in the world. I'm really amazed to have got all the way through my PhD because I really enjoyed it. But I realized that I wasn't going to set the world on fire as a scientist unless I literally set it on fire. So I wanted to focus on things that I knew I was good at doing and could use my science to then do.
Well, That's very happy to hear, because I also had the similar experience, because I really wanted to win a Nobel Prize someday, but working in the science, either you achieve the highest or nothing, but because it's something personal things. So it's very good that you are sharing this with us today, because there are many roles in biotech, and there are many ways to find your meaning in this field and find your career, not just being a scientist, which is also great, but there are definitely many other opportunities there. So was it hard to move from wet lab to the, I don't know, working in other roles in science? And also, what was the jobs that you would look at, and what was the route on choosing them? Because it's difficult probably to identify yourself with specific role if you kind of considered you're going to be a scientist all your life.
Yeah, no, it is really interesting. And this is where, my recommendation to young, people going through science is don't try and, like I said at the beginning, don't try and predetermine where you should be. See what there is, because so many paths exist that you didn't know were even a thing. My current job at EuropaBio is the only job I have ever had that I already knew existed. All the other jobs I either created myself or were a really interesting surprise to see if I could do them. So basically, after my PhD, in my last year of my PhD, I realized I wasn't going to be a successful bench scientist. I really liked it, but it wasn't where a good career pathway for me was going to lie. And I think people should never see that as a failure. You should not think that a PhD is your destiny to then become and stay a bench scientist. A PhD enables you to do a huge number of things in a huge number of circumstances. So it gave me an extra level of understanding, an ability to analyze, an ability to talk to other scientists that stood me in very good stead in all of my jobs. So during the last year of my PhD, I basically started job hunting, and I ended up working very interestingly in a scientific communications company. So essentially I went into scientific marketing because I could use all my knowledge as a scientist, but I enjoyed writing very much, and I could communicate science well. So I started working there because this was also way back in the day when the GM crop scandal blew in Europe. And so a PhD in plant biochemistry with jobs within agricultural research were kind of falling back really quickly. There weren't a lot of jobs in there. So I, very fortunately, it was at the same time that biotechnology SMEs were starting to grow and emerge. And this was when I was still in the UK. So I got a job working in a scientific marketing agency, which exposed me to lots of small scientific companies around the Cambridge cluster in the UK. So for them, I was understanding all about their business models. I was writing press releases, I was writing websites, I was running conferences, and I was working alongside very closely a local biotechnology network, a business network. So I discovered that I really enjoyed doing lots of things like that. And so after working for a while in their marketing agency, I took what I had learned about how to manage events, how to communicate science directly, how to ask the right questions to get the answers that you need. I took that and I worked more closely in the biotechnology cluster, helping to grow the local business biotech network, which I really, really enjoyed. So I ran larger and larger conferences. I was starting to connect with biotechnology clusters around Europe elsewhere, and that started to move me into the field of network development and management. Because, it goes back to the recommendation that I always make is like, find the things you like doing and do more of them, and never be afraid to try something different and to move fields, because the skills that you have are super transferable, and you will find something. If you find something that you really enjoy doing, your career can grow around that, because it's a great thing to do.
Would you say it's very natural, the way your career shifted into building networks and communicating science and similar, as you yourself a very communicative person, and working as a scientist is more, you know, a closed environment, and building networks is expanding these environments and connecting to people, learning more. So would you as well recommend to look into the things that people are already inspired of, or is it just comes naturally an understanding of what field and who you are as a person, and what strengths you have, and what urges or wishes of the life for the future you have? Would you say that is important to understand as sooner as possible?
Yeah, I think it's important to be honest with yourself about what you enjoy doing. What I discovered that I was quite good at, which didn't particularly feel like rocket science at the time, but it turns out, you know, it's a thing I can do, is because I was working in scientific marketing, you often had to deal with scientists that would be quite impenetrable in terms of the language and the content that they would use. And if you're trying to turn that into something like a press release or a website or something like that, you need to translate that into simple language that the person they're trying to speak to can understand and engage with. So I think that's also has taught me a lot in my association management, because it's not about being super complex about everything. It's about being a conduit for information. So you can talk to lots of different types of people, but have the message as something that everybody understands in the middle. And when I was, you know, as I was working through this and setting up my first scientific network across Europe, you often have to be at a point where you go, can I just stop you there? What do you mean by that? Do you mean that we should do this, or do you mean that we should do that? And amusingly, the first time I did that, everybody else in the room went, I am so glad you asked that question, because we didn't understand. So never be afraid to go, I don't really understand what you mean by that. What do you think the impact of this is? And it was really interesting for me to learn how to make something complex accessible to the right target audience. So I think I learned to be a good facilitator at the same time that I was having to build structures to do that facilitation in. So as well as being just super useful and helpful to everybody, I was also building a structure of networks into which they could be useful themselves. So it's not about being everybody's friend. It's about saying, well, if we have this structure, then everybody can say something and we will all have useful information and nobody will be louder than the other one. So it merged two things I found really interesting, is giving everybody a fair and open voice, and also making it very accessible to everybody.
I want to jump into the questions from audience, because it's related to a bit earlier question, but I don't want to dismiss it and, you know, not include it. And I urge everyone again to ask questions that you care about and you would like to address to our speakers. There was a question from the audience asking, a very simple one, whether you were a good student in school or university. I think that it's related probably to the topic that we discussed about scientific career. So how did you do in school?
Yeah, I worked really hard at school, but I don't think I was naturally talented at anything, which is probably why I'm not a professional, you know, I'm not a Nobel Prize winner. So I worked really, really hard, and things that I didn't understand, like chemistry at school, I just basically had to memorize. It was, and I think that's part of what where I am now, is that I didn't set I recognized that I wasn't going to achieve specific scientific heights. So, and that's not a problem. It was just pushed me in a different direction. So, you know, sometimes I didn't get the grades I wanted, even though I worked ridiculously hard. And that's a hard lesson to learn, but it happens for a reason, I think, in many ways. If you don't get the grades, it's really true that if one door closes, another one opens. And you will be really surprised that the door that closed might not have been the right direction for you anyway. And the door that opens is one that you are better equipped to go through and enjoy yourself with. So, of course, I will always say work really hard, because you make your own luck. So the harder you work, the luckier you get in a lot of things. But also listen to what that work is telling you. If you are not going to be a rocket scientist, find other ways to express what you enjoy doing. Don't beat yourself up because you haven't got the specific grade you think you need to do something.
Have motivation and determination, I think, in
Yes.
any case, in any path you take. So coming back to your enrollment activities in building networks in biotech and life sciences, your abilities, your skills really grew, and you are originally from UK, but you moved to Brussels in 2009. This is information that I have, and you became a part of Council of European Bioregions, which is a network of biotech clusters across Europe, which is much bigger network organization. How work experience changed in this role compared to previous ones, and what do you found most challenging during this period of your career?
In fact, the Council of European Bioregions was actually the first network that I was part of the founding team from. We founded it when I was still in the UK, and this is where you can build opportunities and things out of really small projects, because we set up the Council of European Bioregions through a really small EU project. It was just a really small concerted action, and the aim of that action, which was only 2 years long, was to create a network of biotechnology clusters. So we did that. We started out in the UK, but then obviously it needed somebody to run it. So it was very difficult to manage it in the UK because of the difference in currency. So it would be really expensive to move money backwards and forwards. Even if you had a euro account in the UK at the time, it was still classed as a foreign currency transaction. So we didn't have much money. It wasn't the only job I had. But we decided, and at this point, we sat with my husband and our 2 really small children, who were like just preschool at that time, to say, well, why don't we move to Brussels? You know, I will just work independently, I will work for myself, and we will move to Brussels, because all European pathways lead to Brussels, and it's much less of a barrier to running something European when you're at the center of European activities. You know, here, and I love living in Brussels. It's a really small city, but you can find everything from every sector, from every country, just around the corner. You don't have to go to the countries all the time to do it. So that was a really big decision that we made at the time. And we did that on an absolutely tiny budget. You know, this was not some big, corporate move. You know, we packed up our stuff and we drove to Brussels, and it was retrospectively the best decision I ever made professionally, for obvious reasons. Now I am a proud Belgian. My kids speak French, and have no fear about working in an international environment. So I think the hardest things there were having the confidence to make such a big move geographically and for the family, because, it was a risk, but we worked really hard at it, and we were poor for a while. But that was a really good experience. And that was probably fundamentally the hardest thing to do. On the network operation side, you then move to the next phase of network development, is how you make it bigger and how you make it earn enough money to be sustainable, because things cannot live on public funding forever in this kind of world. The proof of this kind of thing is who is willing to pay you membership fees for it. And that's something I've always learned through associations. It's like, nobody just gives you money, unfortunately. You have to go and ask them for it and persuade them this is a great thing. So we were dealing at the same, on a personal level, we were dealing with a change of country. And on a professional level, I was dealing with how you scale up a startup organization and making enough money so that people can live off it. So
I was really happy to hear that you take risk. These are the keywords I heard in making a change, creating something. I think that we will talk later on today when we will talking about startups and so on. Don't be afraid of taking a risk, be brave. And would you agree with me, have a support system, either family or someone supporting you, co-founders, founders?
Absolutely.
You agree, yes?
I think while I was preparing for this as well, I was thinking about what, advice I would give perhaps some of the women listening in today in particular, because I can understand in the things that I have done, I've always been quite entrepreneurial. I come from a family of people that worked for themselves. You know, my father was a boat builder, my grandfather was a boat builder, my sister does, you know, my sister is independent as well. So there was never the fear of doing something on your own. But I think women in particular are often don't like to do a new thing unless they know they're going to be really good at it. And that was something I asked myself when I applied for my current role, in that if you only ever apply or try to do things you know you can already do all of, that role is already old and past it. You should always be challenging yourself into something where you have got to do some learning. So when I came to my role at EuropaBio, I did not know really anything about public affairs and advocacy. I had always worked in network development and association management, albeit from a very scientific and European-oriented perspective. But instead of either pretending I could or just not applying for the role, I went in and said, I don't know how to do these things. However, these are the key strengths I have that meet, you know, 80% of the job description that you have. And I think I will be able to learn those last bits and mobilize experts to do them. So one of the key things that I see time and time again across women is that they're not really confident to say, I'm going to try a thing that I've not tried before. And there's going to be some things that are difficult and a bit scary, but that's good. It makes life interesting and it makes you grow and learn your own strengths and weaknesses. So don't be afraid to try something, even if you fail at it, because you've learned something new about yourself, what you do and you don't like doing. So it's not about getting it right 100% of the time. It's about trying something. And if you really don't like it, then you know that that's a thing you don't want to do more of. You don't always get lucky and do something that you really enjoy. You have to learn both ways.
I have this saying, what the worst could happen if you try? So this is something that you can evaluate and move forward. So thank you for sharing these advices with our audience. I would like to give a little time to introduce EuropaBio, because this is a big organization, European Association for Bioindustries, and it's one of the largest and most influential biotech industry groups, and you are currently the Director General there. So I wanted to, as we are collaborating a lot with EuropaBio and Lithuania in general, and Europe as a whole, what are the organizational goals of EuropaBio for the nearest future, and specifically you as a leader of this organization? What are your personal goals regarding EuropaBio?
Yeah, that question could take about an hour to answer, so I'll try and be precise. Yeah, maybe a bit more concise. It's what we do in EuropaBio is we try to make sure that there's an environment in which biotechnology can be successfully developed through to market, through to patients. So it is not about, ironically, it's not about scientific discovery per se. And that's what I've always really enjoyed. You know, the scientific discovery phase is like 5% of the journey for a product or a process. The other 95% is a complex, multifaceted journey where lots of different things will prevent your product and process from reaching its destination. So you have to address every single thing. And there's lots of different ways that it can be stopped. You know, it could be some kind of legal structure. It could be the wrong kind of wording. It could be a regulatory framework. It could be a lack of investment. And these are things that EuropaBio tries to put in place through working with the European Commission and national governments, you know, and anybody, you know, regulatory agencies, to make sure that all the cogs to enable the passage of a biotechnology technology can work well, and the technology will progress because it's the right thing to do. You know, we've already talked about how it's not a matter of getting all technologies through. You have to pick the ones that you think will be most impactful. But once you've decided that, it's really important to make sure that the pathway is actually open. So EuropaBio works on a policy and a regulatory front, plus on a sort of societal perception front, to make sure that biotech has the smoothest pathway forward as possible, because this then encourages large-scale investment that companies need to be able to scale up. You know, if a company is if a company can reach a market and sell into that market, it's going to put a lot of money into enabling it to do that. And that is where the investment in large scale infrastructures, investment in skills, all comes. And with the delightful complexity of biotech, that brings 100 different specialist sectors associated with that. And every single one employs people, it develops skills, it delivers economic benefit for Europe. So, and we live in a time now where people are incredibly aware of what biotechnology does now. I have never, ever had the experience before where people actively discuss which vaccine they have. That has never existed before as a thing. So we're looking all the time at how do we take people's new perception of biotech and say, right, these are the things that we need for this type of biotech to be successful? Because those vaccines didn't fall from the sky. mRNA as a technology has been investigated for over 20 years, but it's taken a huge amount of learning and investment and things happening at the right times for that to work. And on a personal level, for me, this takes what I already knew I really liked doing, like running associations and enabling lots of really different people to work together productively. And it's put it at a much higher scale. I now have to deal with higher levels in the European Commission. I also have to deal with a larger team. So these are really interesting personal challenges for me, because before I was working in much smaller organizations. And so I kind of had to do everything myself. So this probably my biggest challenge is trying not to do everything myself, because there's other people to do that who are better at it than I am, and learning my role is to enable them to be as good as possible. So I'm still going on that learning challenge, particularly as half of my life so far in EuropaBio has been spent working remotely from the whole team. And indeed, we only met all together in September this year. So it's super interesting professionally and personally for me. And I kind of have to pinch myself to think that I'm sitting in the big chair at EuropaBio.
Talking about teams, because this is what you mentioned, and that you are eager to learn and have experience in such organization, you still have, as a leader of this organization, some advices, or you see what brings the value into the teams that makes them more efficient. How do you see forming the team? What are the key advices from you as a leader of a team that could be used, for instance, for other future leaders?
Yeah, I think there's lots of different things there, because I'm still learning how to mobilize and manage a team as well as possible. I think for a team to be successful, you're essentially measuring the output should be greater than the sum of the parts, if that makes sense. The power of people working together is very, very significant. So it's finding and focusing on things that you can do that are impactful and that you can outperform individual contributions. So a team always has to work. It needs a lot of different types of people in it, but they all have to be willing to move outside their comfort zones. It's not about outcompeting somebody sitting at the desk next to you. It's all about pulling towards the same goal, even if you have very different approaches to that. So that's really the advice inside teams. It's being clear about where you're going, what help you will need from other people, the help you can give and should be giving to other people. And you're always keeping your eye on the prize of what you are trying to achieve, because the feeling of satisfaction is immense. And we've achieved things over my career that are much larger than the size of the team behind it. And people are always amazed. You go, wow, you ran that, you delivered this. And, it's not a way you can work 100% of the time, because you'll just wear out, but you can achieve things that in a team that you cannot achieve individually, even if you're a genius.
Yes. So Women in Biotech is focusing on inspiring women leadership in the sector, but it's not something that is just organized by us. It's a European trend to empower women to create startups, to be more active in science and so on. So because even in European Union we have almost 50% of women in science and engineering. So that's a really good number, but in executive levels we only have something around 17% that are women, and it's something that European Union and the Commission are trying to enforce and support and fund. As you are connecting these networks, do you see the effect of that? Because it continues few years now, and there are a lot of grants and funds for companies that are run by women, and especially some additional points are given to projects that have women on board in the team. So do you see the effect? When the networks are meeting, these people are meeting in the biotech sector, do you see the change or not?
I do, but it's not the instant equality and representation that we would really like it to be, because obviously it's been about getting women to higher point positions in organizations for a really long time, and we still have a pretty long way to go, I think, at an executive level. What I want to see is normalizing there being, it shouldn't have to be such hard work to find the same level of executive women as there are executive men, and even in just inviting people for our EFIB conference next week, it's really hard. You have to really go out of your way to look for it. And whilst women, I think, are more aware of this, I think we also need the sector as a whole to see, because it's very easy when you do something to accidentally end up with a room full of men, because there's more of them at executive levels. You have to be more careful with your planning at the beginning of a process to make sure that something is as equal and balanced as possible. If you get 3/4 of the way through the process without thinking about this, you are not going to end up with any kind of balance. And I think it often comes as a bit of a surprise to the guys as well. Like when I was interviewed for my job, it was an all male panel, and I pointed this out in my job interview, so I wasn't entirely sure whether I'd get the job or not. But once people become, keeping pushing the awareness that it's too easy to end up with a big unbalance in activities, and you have to plan it in from the beginning so that it doesn't turn up as a surprise to anybody when you get the right answer, or you're not too late to change it in the process. So it's all about, there's lots and lots of activities that push it forward. Women have to not wait to be asked and push themselves forward, because as I have learned running associations, and as I already said, nobody just gives you money. You have to go out and say, you should give me money. And it's the same in pushing yourself forward for jobs as well. Women have to do this more and say, I will go for that job and I will tell you why I think I could do it. So it's recognition from the environment as a whole that there is big disproportions when you get higher up the executive chain, and also not being afraid to step forward yourselves.
So you would agree that there's some much more barriers that limit career progression for women in biotechnology field, or not? And what could be changed that is not related to women being active themselves, but rather in the system? And did you ever face similar things, barriers that were very obvious in the progression?
I suppose if I look back, because I worked for myself, I didn't really have anybody saying, no, you can't do that. But when I look back, I was really aware that, when I was having kids, there was still an expectation that it would be me that stepped back from work. And I think that expectation still exists a lot in different places in Europe, and we need to stop that. And it's made more difficult by the fact that maternity leave is not very long, paternity leave is almost non-existent. You know, there are large structural inequalities built into the system. So to make childcare affordable for everybody, to make paternity leave equal to maternity leave, you know, there are lots of structural things that push women sideways if you're trying to grow, because there's still the expectation that it will be the woman that is the primary caregiver in any particular situation. My other half went and worked part-time when I had the kids because I wanted to work full-time. So we just did that. So there's, of course, we need to get past the salary differences as well. They still exist, which then make it harder for somebody to go, right, I'm going to continue working full-time. Because if you earn less than your partner, it's very difficult to bring a financial argument to that. So there are huge numbers of structural things that need fixing still, which I would really like to see fixing. And as I get older, I don't mind being more and more shouty about them, because it's like, this should not exist now.
Yes. Well, our time is running out because I really wanted to ask loads of more questions, but it's just probably a sign that these type of discussions must continue. But to end our discussion, I would like to, of course, ask you to share some of the advices for the scientists, entrepreneurs, and others who are listening to us, all genders, not just women, in order, what advices to become leaders of tomorrow, because bioindustries are growing significantly and will continue to be a part of technologies that transform our future. So
yeah,
we're looking for advices today.
I would say, remember that science needs ambassadors everywhere, not just at the bench. So you can serve science from 1,000 different jobs that don't have anything to do with labs. Also, don't be afraid to take a risk or do something that scares you, because, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? Try it. If you don't like it, try something else. And don't be afraid to put yourself forward for something. If you don't speak up, expecting that somebody will notice you for a great job you did or what is written down, you're probably going to get outcompeted by the person next to you that does speak up. So do not assume that you will be picked for something just because you know that you are better. You have to tell people about it. And that's something that gets easier to do as you get older and care slightly less about things like that. But it's what I would always recommend to people.
Thank you so much for such advices and insightful discussion. Thank you, Claire, again.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Agne, and I will see you very soon.
Thank you. And we will continue to our next speaker, Monika.
Okay, so now it's time for the second speaker, Judit Camargo, the CEO of Roka Furadada.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Hello, Judit.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Good to see you, and it seems great weather back there in Spain, as I believe you are now.
Yes. I'm very close to Barcelona. We have a workshop with the team today and tomorrow, and we are enjoying a little bit of the outside of the city in the landscape, so we can work on team building. And it's something that we will talk after during the conversation. So yes, we have a great weather right now. Happy to see you, and I'm very, very happy to share with you my thoughts, and it was very interesting, all the things that were sharing before.
So, Judit, you have an impressive professional career from what you are doing and what you achieved and what your path was. So could you just share a little bit of your story, just, starting from how you have chosen your field of studies and how you moved to pharma and then to startups and then also to academic careers. So Could you really share a little bit of your storyline?
Yes, thank you. Well, I was always interested. I was very curious as a child, and because of that, I choose to study science. In particular, I have a degree in chemistry because I want to go inside of the things. I want to understand how the things go. And after doing my degree in chemistry, I decided also to stay in the university for a while, but soon I have the opportunity to begin my career, my professional career in a pharmaceutical laboratory. So I decided also to go ahead with my professional career, but also with the academic one. One thing that I find during my career is that sometimes what you choose at the beginning, I mean, we are evolving with the things that we know, with the things that we are interested in. So, and because of that, I've been studying not only, I mean, I begin 2 doctorates that I don't finish in bioengineering and then also in physical chemistry, that is my expertise. And at the same time, I was working in the pharmaceutical industry. I began to work in the pharmaceutical industry because I think that we can do an impact with the health of the patients. I really think that we can change things. We can help the people with improving their health and their way of life. And because of that, I choose to be part of the pharmaceutical industry. But at the same time, I was curious and I need to follow up my my preparation in an academic way. So I was very interested in modulation, in statistics, and but also with the relationship between experimental results and simulation. And because of that, I did a master in statistics applied to public health. And from this, I evolved in terms of my academic formation to biomedicine, and also I'm right now finishing my PhD in biomedical studies applied to public health. One thing that have always interested to me a lot, and that's a point that will, was very important at the time that I found my company. It was the impact that, as a chemist, the impact that a lot of chemist compounds have on our health and also in the ecosystems. I was also very interested in having in waste, in having in taking a lot of value, the most value that we can of waste. And because of that, I am doing my PhD. I'm finishing my PhD about the impact of metals and toxics in human health and also in ecosystems. So the thing is that I've been doing both careers in parallel. So I was doing my technical positions in pharmaceutical industry, and at the same time doing my PhD. I was having a lot of courses in management at high level. So the point was that I've been working during a lot of time in technical positions in the pharmaceutical industry, mostly in quality control, quality assurance, analytical development. And I was aware that from that, I don't have a lot of impact in my decisions. So I decided to change that and move to another part of the company. So at that time, I have the opportunity to, in the same company, to take different positions, like working with business units, different business units, logistics with the factories, I mean, making the planification. And from that, I was evolving until having a lot of interest in business development. That was something that I don't know here in Lithuania, but in Spain, the scientists, we don't have a lot of information about how the companies function. I mean, in terms of economics, in terms of sales, in terms of business, we are very focused on science, and we don't have a lot of information of other kind of positions in the company. But I wanted a change, and I did this change inside of the same company. And once I have the opportunity to do business development, for me, it was something that changed a lot my view, because I was aware that from business, you can have a lot of impact. You can have more power, more decisions. And in that case, for me, it was very important, because the things that were important for me, I can do that. I can translate that into the company. And after working during 5 years during business development, opening new markets, not only in Europe, but also in Asia, I decided that it was very difficult for me to have different positions. I mean, more powerful positions for me, because I'm talking about sales positions in pharmaceutical companies, multinationals or national one in Spain. And also there was a thing that sometimes I was not very aligned. I mean, my values were one kind of values, and the values of the company were not always aligned with my values. And it was precisely at that point when I was aware that I wanted to do something different and to create an impact, that I decided to found my company, Roka Furadada.
Okay.
So
thank you, Judit, for a very interesting story, how everything set up in your professional life. And the path that you were in pharma industry, and also started your PhD, and now having your company and finishing your PhD. So how do you see yourself actually? How you identify yourself? Are you a scientist, an academic, or are you a business person, executive? How actually now you are feeling into these different roles that you currently have?
I think that I cannot have a specific role, because in my company, Roka Furadada, it's of course it's a company, so we have to do business, but our core it's very scientist. I mean, 80% of the people are scientists. Then I am scientist also, but I'm doing business development, and of course we will need to grow and hire people in sales area. But I think that both things go together. For me, it's important to understand what are the needs of the market. I mean, this is the business part, and how we as a scientist can give a solution, or a better solution of what exists, with our knowledge and with our purpose. That's the point. So I think that the beautiful thing is that we are scientists, but we know that we want to do and prepare and create products that are market focused. So we have, both sides, business and scientists. And one of the interesting points is that even if we are a lot of scientists, every day we have meetings and we talk about the business goals of the company every day. So everybody with her job has very clear which is the impact, which is the focus, and what do we have to do. So I think that what we are doing is that even if you have a scientific background, and most of the people that is working in the company comes from technical centers or from the academy, but they are understanding the impact, I mean, the need that we have to do things that are have to go to the society, and that the consumers will have a better product to live or to. So I think that it's both things. So I would not choose one of them.
Okay, Judit, and can you actually tell us more about Roka Furadada, what you do and what is, you know, the long-term goal and the vision of the company, what you want to achieve? So it would be really interesting to hear more about Roka Furadada.
Well, Roka Furadada, it's a company that was founded 2 years ago. I mean, it's a company with a short life, but the project that we are right now developing and that it's very close to the market, it's a project that comes from the pharmaceutical company that I was working before. So we have the IP, we have the knowledge, and this is the things that we are I mean, that are more close to the market. We are doing UV filters. I mean, UV filters are the active ingredients that protect us from ultraviolet radiation, that are the active ingredients of sunscreens. So we are not producers of final product. We are a B2B company. And this is what we are doing now. But we are also working on having this kind of UV filters that could be applied not only in cosmetics and in medicines, but also in materials and other, a lot of things based on waste. I mean, we are working on a circular economy. We have a project to obtain our filters, the ones that we have patented, from lignin. And we are working also in different projects to obtain our own lignin from biomass, from local biomass. So we have a lot of projects, but right now what we are selling is UV filters that are progressive. The main difference between our filters and the ones that exist is that our filters are activated with UV radiation. Usually when you buy a sunscreen, it has a combination of UV filters and it has an SPF 50. That means that you can be 10 times more at the sun. It is supposed that you can be 10 times more at the sun than if you don't have any protection. But actually this is not true, because most of these compounds are not stable. So the studies that we are doing is that usually in 1 hour, depending on the dose of radiation that you have, maybe this cream is not protecting you. So what we want to do, it's something, and what we have done, it's something that protects you independently of the dose of radiation that you have. That means that one cream that is based on our active products can protect you at least 5 or 6 times more than a usual one. Because the problem is that, you know, sunscreens are cosmetic products in Europe and in a lot of countries. In the States, they have this dual, I mean, they could be cosmetics, but also they can be medicines. But it's a very useful tool to protect us from skin cancer. So it is not a cosmetic like other ones. And under our point of view, it's very important that we can do something that can improve the health and, I mean, the life of the people, because you don't have to be all the time thinking, oh, I need a SPF 50, I have applied my sunscreen 2 hours ago. I mean, nobody does these things. So we were thinking in a product that can protect you even if you are not very conscious of the time that you have to reapply your sunscreen and things like that.
Okay, and well, the problem that you're solving and then the solution you are offering, it's really very important and valuable for people, for the society. But at the same time, to run a company that actually does research and development and also has, to be on the market, generate revenue, that's challenging. That's something that is not actually easy to make. So, and you are the CEO. So what are the aspects of your work, of your everyday life at the company that you find the most challenging, but at the same time, what do you enjoy the most being in this position and, well, taking all of this responsibility? So could you elaborate on that?
Yes, the things that are more challenging and that everybody told me, but I was not aware, is that I pass the whole time asking for money, looking for private and public money. That it's something that I have never done because I was working for corporates. So it's something that, you do the job, but you are not all the day looking for the money that will pay your salary and the salaries of the people that is working for you. And it's something that it takes a lot of time. I think that right now it's something that I do, and it's not so. I've been used to that, but at the beginning was very hard because you need resources. You have to hire people. You want to have the best people that you can, and you have to pay them, and it's a responsibility. So you have to look for money to pay them, and that was something very challenging because I have never done something like that before. But at the same time, I'm very proud of having, all the things that I have achieved with Roka Furadada. Right now we have in 2 years between with public and private money, we have raised 2.5 million euros. That's a lot of money. We are very happy, and we began 3 people, and right now we are 12, and the expectation is that in the next 2 years we will grow a lot. So I think that this is something that it's very nice. And another thing that it's, for me, it's very inspiring is that the people, the team that are working on the project, they believe a lot also in the project and the values that we have. And on the other hand, on the different kind of company that we are doing. So this is one of the things that I think that maybe I think that everybody told me that it was a lot of hard work and that I will be all the time looking for money. But when people tell you, you are not aware of what are they exactly talking about. And now it's something that, well, I think that if anybody wants to begin with a new project, to found a company, I will tell him exactly what it is in terms of hours and in terms of things that you have to do, and that you are not doing what you like sometimes.
Okay, and well, being a woman CEO, a woman in the life sciences field, do you face any specific challenges? And how you feel in general the industry allows women to pursue their careers and then lead companies, or have you faced any obstacles in that? And maybe you can tell more, well, in general, what is the situation in Spain that you are coming from regarding women in biotech?
Well, for example, during my career in the corporate world in pharmaceutical companies, I have to say that in terms of technical positions, there were a lot of women, but once you are going to the business positions, there are less. And it was very, I mean, it was very usual that I was the only woman in meetings with a lot of men. That was something that I get used to, but was sometimes was very strange because they play their jokes, and you sometimes you don't understand what are they talking about, but it's difficult to find a position that has power to make decisions. I mean, there are in the corporate world in Spain, we have women at certain positions, but not in the more powerful positions, in the positions that they can do a change or that can decide the way of the company, the objectives, the values. That is something that happens in Spain. And I can speak about Barcelona and Catalonia, that it's the area that I have worked mostly, but it's also the part of the Spain that it's 70% of the pharmaceutical industry. So I think that is more or less what is happening in Spain. And in terms of having my own company, I have to say that I founded the company in 2019, and at that time I had particular help because I think that things are changing, and that in terms of public health, they are thinking, or they are pushing more for companies that are led by women. But at the same time, I was aware that there was, there was few women founding their own companies, and especially in the technical world, in science and in biotechnology. So this is something that sometimes I think about. I was the last year I was in a program that the U.S. consulate did in cooperation with the Barcelona County, and it was a program that was specific for women entrepreneurs. We were 30 women. And that program was very interesting because we had the opportunity to talk about our problems, what are the challenges that we are facing. But at the same time, it makes me aware that we are very few in comparison with the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Barcelona and also in Spain. That it's a very active system. I mean, in Barcelona, in concrete, we have a lot of startups. I mean, the startup ecosystem is growing a lot in terms of technology, but women, we are still a very small part of the ecosystem. Also in health and science, and this is a challenge because I think that we have a very good scientists, a very good executive women in the corporate world, but I don't know why it is not usual to find women that found their own company in terms of biotechnology.
We also have a question from the audience, and it's a question that I will allow myself to expand a little bit. It's about the impact of COVID and all this complicated situation that we had and still to some extent have at the moment. So how did you deal with that? But how did you deal with all the limitations, both from company perspective, because, well, I'm coming from, let's say, a similar background, and it was really challenging to continue R&D activities and to keep the operations going during the COVID, because, well, it's not the type of business which can work from home. And also, you personally, how did you deal with the whole situation and managing both the company and your personal life and so on?
Well, I think that during the COVID lockdown was very difficult. I am a very optimistic person, so when they say that they will lock down all the activities, I thought that it would be only 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know why, because it has no sense. I mean, the situation was so complicated that it has no sense that it was only 2 weeks. I mean, we all can expect that it will take a long time, but I don't know. I thought that it will be for a few time. So we had in Spain, we had 4 months of strict lockdown. So we have to stop the operations. Also, our partners that our partners in terms of production and other labs that we have that we outsource some activities, they stop their activities also. So we had a delay in the project of more or less 6 months. That was one point that for me was very important, because at that time I was I understand that I have to have my own lab. I can't release on other facilities labs. And in 2020, in September 2020, I decided that I have to go forward with a private investor round of 1.5 million. That is something that we closed this year in April 2021, because I need more resources in order to push the project and compensate the lost time during the COVID time, because I think that we have a product that it's we have to take the opportunity now, no? Because they are reclassifying a lot of UV filters because they are endocrine disruptors. They have a huge impact on the ecosystems. So we can not allow ourselves to have a delay of a lot of time. So I think that on one hand, it was something that delayed a lot of our operations and our go-to market. But on the other side, it pushes us to do this founding race that has changed everything. I mean, since we got the private money, we have hired a lot of people. We are, we expect to begin sales at the end of this year. And also we have our own lab. I mean, we think that maybe we have to rent a big facility in the next months. So on one hand, it was a very hard and strange situation, but on the other hand, I think that it changes in terms of the decisions that we have to take to survive as a company.
Mm-hmm. So in general, while you lead the company and finish your PhD, is there any space left within your life and maybe leisure time for any other activities that yes. You are pursuing, or you feel now that the company and finishing PhD is what takes most of your time?
Yes. The last 2 years, rolling my company and also my PhD is taking most of the time, but also, of course, my family and my partner, my friends. That's the things that I only have time for this. I used to have a lot of activities that were, a lot of activities that have an impact on the community, especially in terms of ecologist activism. I was in climate justice movements. I was also, I'm in a woman leadership associations here in Spain. So what I had to do the last 2 years is to reduce my activities in terms of social impact and social community, and focus on the company, my PhD, and in my family and friends. That's the things that I can do. But I hope that maybe in 2 years I can come back once again to these activities that for me are very important. To also give an impact to the society in terms of climate change, women leadership, and all these things that I think that are very important that we all compromise with.
And well, you are located in Spain, but as I believe, you deal with partners quite internationally. So do you see it as an advantage of being in Spain, or well, you see that maybe probably you will need to move somewhere else in the near future if you want to grow your company?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think that one of the main motives or interests that I had when I founded the company was that I want to create my company in Spain, in Barcelona, and that scientists from Barcelona and of course from Europe can have the opportunity to have really interesting and challenging jobs here. But of course, we are a company that are very internationally focused, and I don't think that we will move, but it's probably that we can have, we are thinking in the long term, we will probably have to have affiliates, for example, in the States. We are looking also for partners, for example, in LATAM and Brazil and LATAM. And we have also partners that are in Germany or in Switzerland. And also we have people that is working in the company that they are located in the north of Europe. So I think that we can still have our headquarters in Barcelona, but also we will have to do partnerships and affiliates in other countries in order to grow in terms of operations.
Well, yes, I believe that Barcelona is a very attractive place to be. And yes, to my knowledge, the startup scene is really growing there. And well, yes, seeing this beautiful weather that you are in, so I'm definitely a little bit in envy for you, because we here have a real autumn at the moment, so no sun as you have. So one more thing that I wanted to discuss with you. Within your company and industry and among Spain and internationally probably, do you feel that your story can bring inspiration for others? And if a young person or more experienced person, but who thinks about changing the career path, establishing a startup, would ask you an advice, So what advice would you give in terms of, to make the change or not to make the change, and what to think about?
I think that my advice will be that they try, that they have to try it, because it's very, very different to have your own company that work for the academy or work for a corporate. One thing that it's interesting, that the advice that I will give is that I think that it's important to have some experience, so you can decide whatever you want. In my case, I have been in the academy, I've been in the corporate world, I have a lot of experience, and I decided to do my own company. But I think that it's something that we have to explain. Running a company, it's challenging, but it's also very, very grateful. I am very happy to have my own company. I can have an impact that it's greater than the one that I had when I was in the corporate world. So in terms of personal happiness, I think that even if we have to work a lot, of course, and sometimes sacrifice during a time, lots of things, it is something that it's very, very different from working for another one in terms of impact. So my advice will be, if you want to do it, do it. There are few things more challenging than having your own company, especially if you are thinking in scientists, a research company or a high scientist company. It's very challenging. If they like challenging and they like to do different things and growing professionally and personally, and it's something that they have to definitely prove. Of course, there is a risk, but life is a risk. I think that here in Spain and also in Europe, we have to be more clear, explaining that, running a company, it's something that it's very intensive in learning. In a small piece of time, you will learn a lot. You learn exponentially. So it's something that I will recommend to anyone that has the curiosity to do it.
So you already found your topic and that you are working on, but let's say if somebody asked you for advice, or I believe that you're still very much engaged into this scientific community and all the new hot topics in life sciences. So what would you name as the areas, well, maybe several areas, several topics that you see a lot of potential in the life sciences field that, well, can be brought from science to business?
I think that we have a lot of things to do right now. In my case, of course, I'm thinking in terms of changing from petrol-based industry to another kind of industry. More based in circular economy, based in using waste. But also there is, for me, the main challenge is new materials in terms of different kind of medical approach with a digital approach to medicine. And of course, I think that this time we have to move from the chemistry that was, the 20th century to biological-based technologies in the 21st century. It's something that it's very important, not only in terms of medicine, but also in terms of material and resources. So I think, under my point of view, the most challenging will be energy, of course, but also materials. I mean, recovering materials and also having new materials more efficient and that can have the same efficacy with less resources. So this is something, and for example, in terms of medicine, we can talk about prevention. I mean, we have to move from prevention because medicine right now is very focused on cure. I mean, you have a problem and we try to cure you or to be palliative in terms of pain and all these things. And I think that we are moving to a change that is prevention. So we have to have an action before you have actually a disease or you can be. This is the three things that I think we are moving. That is we have to do the effort from the scientist to the business world. And I think that it's something that we have to work, at least in Spain, we have to work a lot from the cooperation between the private system or companies and the academic and the scientists. We have to work on the challenges that we are facing right now together.
Okay, Judit, it seems that we are running out of time, so it was really great to talk to you and hear your story. So just maybe some final words, a wish for our audience, for our listeners today from you.
I think that, as a scientist, I think that sometimes we have the idea that companies, or I mean, doing your own company and or focusing more on business, it's something that sounds strange for a scientist. But at least I think that as a community, we have the responsibility that our science have do an impact in the society. So sometimes the tool that we have is to go through different products and of course through a company, no, and then we can make the difference. So I think that maybe if you are a scientist and you have a career and you are very curious about lots of things, the idea of having your own company is something that you can consider clearly, because it will be probably the way to make things different, to make an impact and a change. That is the thing that I want to share with you.
So thank you, Judit, very, very much. And all the best regards to Roka Furadada team. And give the thank from us to them by by letting us talk to you today in the middle of your team event. So all the best regards and all the best luck in developing your company. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you again. And we are in a half run of our event today, Women in Biotech, and we're moving towards our next speaker. I'm very happy to present Victoria Betoeski, a CEO of the Connecting Architects. Good afternoon, Victoria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. It's a real honor to be here with you today and to hear all of these amazing stories and journeys of these powerful women leaders. And yes, I'll also start with a brief introduction about myself, tell you more about my activities and my company, The Connecting Architects. And so my journey has been an unconventional one of going into life sciences, compared also to the previous speakers, since I first studied law, actually. And I've always personally been interested in health and new technologies and science. But life just sometimes has a way of turning out in a way that you were not planning it to be. For me, what was always very important was helping other people. And I also studied before law, actually, for a while, physical therapy. And law school, I really thought indeed that this would help me help other people. So that was a big driver for me at that time. Graduating from law school, working as a legal counsel, first for a Fortune 500 company as negotiating with counterparties and really working with the executives on the top level. It was very interesting, but I was also interested in seeing how the world works from the other side. So we had at that time also some lawsuits with the regulator, and I was interested in seeing it from the other perspective. So indeed, having it seen from the commercial side, the dynamic side, working for a big corporate was a great experience. You learn a lot. It really more sets you up indeed how to understand how organizations work, because that's something that you won't learn in university. University, of course, you learn a lot. It prepares you in a certain way in analytical thinking that will serve you throughout your life. But still, the real skills and more knowledge and expertise you will learn on the job. And also, I firmly believe that we will have more of a lifelong learning. And also, the older we get, and it's, as the previous speakers also mentioned, it's very important to do the things that you're passionate about and that you love doing. So I made the switch to the regulator, and that was the Authority of Financial Markets of the Netherlands. So that's why I'm originally from Amsterdam. And it was also very interesting supervising the Dutch capital markets. So seeing IPOs from up close, things like prospectuses, certain M&As, takeover bids, and also financial reporting. And so it's a very new space, which indeed it's very interesting to learn about new spaces. And so that was about financial regulation and that framework. My husband and I, we met them and we moved to Paris. So that was around 8 years ago. And I lived in France for around 8 years, and I just moved to Spain. So I'm also in Spain. It's great to hear that Judit was also there. Indeed, it's warm in Spain now. So indeed, telling you more about indeed my experiences in France, that's where I discovered, and also thanks to the people that I met at that time, that there's this great world called entrepreneurship and also investing and angel investing. So indeed, at that time, I took on some jobs that were completely different from the legal jobs that I had, and started working for some commercial companies. I did trade shows. I learned more of the sales and marketing side, business development, strategy, and corporate development. So really everything that we can see in startups and also scale-ups. And that inspired me to launch my own consulting company, Satori Partners. That was around 4 or 5 years ago already now. And at that time, I had one of my biggest clients that went through this exciting and challenging scale-up. So it was a life science client, and they had around 50 people. And together with the CEO, I was part of the CEO's office at the time. We scaled the team up from 50 to 150 people. And we were involved with the strategic partnerships for all over the world. So a few of them, for example, were in Asia, in Japan, where we also opened an office, and in the US, where we acquired a manufacturing facility and also set up partnerships there. And I was involved with the fundraising. Of course, as you all know, indeed, development of new treatments, there is a lot of fundraising involved. And as they sometimes say, you are continuously raising as a founder or CEO. So that was also a big part of the job. So the fundraising, the strategic partnerships, the international expansion, also setting up patient advocacy, as personally, I think that's very important to have the patient centricity involved. And we can discuss later more about that. But indeed, these were very exciting times, learned a lot. And last year, my co-founder and I, we launched our own company, Deconnecting Architects. So I can share also a few slides on Deconnecting Architects and what we do, if that's something that is of interest.
Yes, of course.
Perfect. Let me then give you the full screen mode. So Deconnecting Architects is a relatively new strategic entrepreneurial advisory firm. And it was launched by me and my co-founder, John Challengarian. We met, I think probably this is the right space indeed to share also a personal story, because indeed it's very important also your co-founder and with whom you built your company. As we're talking about teamwork today, it's crucial who you're working with. And my co-founder and I, we met on a day that we were both commuting in the morning from Paris to Brussels. And normally this takes an hour and a half. At that time, at that day, there were some difficulties and issues. There was vandalism involved. So that train ride, it needed to be derouted. So it took 5 hours. And normally the person that was sitting next to me, that I did not know that would become my business partner and co-founder, normally he would have been, of course, in first class and I would have been in second class. That day, destiny or circumstances brought us together. We were sitting next to each other for the next 5 hours. And we started discussing. I was reading this book about mitochondria, aging, how also the microbiome and food impacts our health. And we started discussing that he was a CEO in biotech, and we had shared a lot of interests. So from there, we started exchanging, and fast forward, we started working together on some entrepreneurial projects and ventures in life sciences. And I'm sharing this because I think it's interesting for the audience and to know that always being open-minded, you never know who you might meet and the things that you will be doing together. And I think personally, that's something that's what life's really about. It's about new experiences and creating things together that positively also impact other people's lives and making these meaningful changes together. So I'll briefly tell you more about what Deconnecting Architects is doing. So John and I, we noticed that there was a gap for companies to successfully scale up globally. And we noticed that in our previous work with the scale up of a biotech company, when we were focusing on one company at that time, we decided we wanted to leverage our network, our expertise, and our knowledge to help more companies, multiple companies, and also amplify ourselves. So we created a platform, Deconnecting Architects, and it's an advisory firm for startups and scale-ups. And it's by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs in the life sciences and health industries and other innovative.
I'm sorry, Victoria, yes. May I jump in? We don't see the changing slides. If you're changing slides, can you check or just reopen again, because the slides are stuck on the first slide, Connecting Architects.
Okay, I also shared it with you if you prefer to share.
It's okay. Just let's try once more. It's
perfect.
Yes. So we see now full one because it was just a table on the side of it.
That's good that you mentioned it, of course.
Yes. Please continue.
And this is. Thank you. Indeed. It's all about, as the previous speakers were also saying, we are here to impact the world and make a positive and lasting change. I mean, it's about. Also, what I heard earlier is about finding the right solutions, the right science and technology, and see how we can really make an impact there. See also what the needs are in the market, the trends. That's something that we also help with. So we saw a gap in the market that there was a need for a more entrepreneurial strategic advisory that helps companies with their scale up and also bringing together indeed as I have indeed my co-founder, John Chalengarian, who is a scientist and also a serial entrepreneur, bringing those two principles together to make indeed, to bring the solutions to market. So our full service advisory firm, it's a full service advisory solution that we offer. And what motivates us is that we want to help these companies from early stage grow into maturity. So depending on the needs, because what we offer is tailored, as we indeed have been entrepreneurs and investors ourselves before, we know that sometimes you need somebody that advises you and helps you with your fundraising. It can be coaching on your pitch deck, or it can be repositioning your business model because you notice that investors are not interested or that the licensing deals is not playing out as you want it. So that's then something that we plug ourselves in and we help the founder or the entrepreneur there. And we can take on different roles, can be in business development, a board member, or even a co-founder. So it really depends on what the companies want. And together we build bold businesses, because that is something that we notice that we need to dream big and dream globally, and then we can execute this together. So that's also why we named our company The Connecting Architects, because we see entrepreneurs and founders really as the people with the vision, and we help them design and also leverage our connections and network. So I hope you can see this slide as well, that what we offer are two pillars, two distinct pillars of the Connecting Architect, which one of them is focused on companies that already exist and that need help with their scale up. So it can be Series A, B, and C, can be turnarounds, preparation for IPO, M&A, and then we can help with, for example, negotiation on term sheets or the exit strategy, and always the storytelling. The storytelling is always very crucial, and it has also our focus. Then we have the other pillar, which is then focus on venture building. And there we can help if there's a certain technology that a researcher or a scientist might not know how to scale this up in a company. We can help there, provide the need finding resources, helping with the business plan, and really indeed start a company and go then together, go fundraising and decide on the strategy together, of course. So we have a network of trusted partners, and how we work is that we always work with our clients as partners. So it's long-term relationship, and we want to have skin in the game. So these are just some steps of the services that the platform offers. As I just described, it can be needs. What we think is very important as well is for a company, you are not alone. Indeed, as a founder entrepreneur, you need your experts and advisors, but also as a company, it's important to always think about indeed who can be best your strategic partners. Can there be opportunities for joint ventures, for example, and business models using current trends, moving forward, always thinking ahead and anticipating. And it's something that sometimes is forgotten by business leaders, to focus on the current day-to-day, which is already challenging enough, to also look forward. So that's something that we can help challenge the entrepreneur and founder as well. And also understanding when to pivot, because indeed it's also important indeed, like when do you continue something, when do you stop doing something, and having that extra sparring partner or sounding board to move forward. Then negotiations with lawyers, with partners, it can be a challenge. So it's good to have indeed experienced advisors and that have done this before. And so we're using all of our learnings and network to help entrepreneurs. So as I mentioned, we help our entrepreneurs and founders in life sciences, biotech, the health industries, and other innovative sectors. And we provide access to an international network and fostering these alliances. So as I mentioned, what makes us different is that we understand science. We have a deep passion for this and also for health and life sciences due to some personal journeys and experiences. We use also our, well, together, decades of experience in building and investing in companies, and that we're using now to help these entrepreneurs, because that is something that drives us and what makes us different. So this is my co-founder. I present to you John Challengarian, and I mean, he always likes to say also that building a business, as he has done before multiple times, it takes craftsmanship and artisanship. So it's a lot of creativity and risk involved. And there's not a one size fits all model. So it's something indeed that, yeah, we would like to help with also, to think creatively and out of the box. And I also think indeed that we can help the startups as their venture guardians. And to give an example, there was recently a startup that reserved a term sheet with some predatory clauses. And so since we are really on the side of the entrepreneur, we help them then protect them against these clauses and help them also explain what it means. That as if it's your company, you would like to keep control, and legalizing things and agreements, it's sometimes a bit confusing. So it's that's why we're here and we're doing what we're doing. So thank you, and happy to hear your questions, Agne, and of the audience.
Thank you, Victoria. It's really impressive. We really understand the need of such experience and knowledge that could be shared and be a help of startups to move forward. So I absolutely understand how you and your partner built in the specific platform that really helps the companies in various stages. And by listening you talking about your personal experience, I had this question: what was the switch? What were the key factors that made you decide to create your own business, your own activities with your partner, rather than staying in? What generally you think are the key switches that helps us move towards that?
Yes, indeed, that is a very good question. And indeed, I would have done it sooner with everything that I know now. But that's indeed, now I can use also the experiences, of course, that I've gained. And indeed, I think it's for everybody, it can be different if it's really something for you. And I think indeed the first steps are also figuring out what are your values, what drives you, what is interesting to you, what do you, for example, like reading about on a daily basis, and what do you want to achieve in this life, or what is really meaningful to you. And for me, or for us, indeed, for my, if I can speak for my co-founder, is that what we noticed in our exchanges together is that we shared this fire and drive and passion to really make a difference in the world, and especially to help others make a difference also in this world. And indeed, it's not about ego, and it's about indeed also providing a platform for others to maximize their potential and that of their technology and their company. So indeed, it's finding that what lights you up. And well, indeed, it's an interesting question, because for me, what didn't light me up, unfortunately, was legal jobs within structures as corporate organizations. And for finding indeed then, after meeting the right people, and that can be indeed, it can be coaches, mentors, certain experts, people that inspire you. So I would indeed recommend go out and meet them, who inspires you. And it can also be reading books. I mean, you can find your inspiration anywhere nowadays, just watching motivational talks. So go out there and be open. You never know who you might meet. You can, like in my example, be inspired and then take action. Because indeed, as I think in the beginning, as Claire was saying, sometimes indeed we might think that we're not ready yet, or it's not perfect yet, that we need to do more, learn more. If we just do it, sometimes we just have to act and we will figure it out along the way. We can pivot, we can change, we can adapt. And indeed, if we call something a failure, there are only lessons to learn from it. So for me, indeed, entrepreneurship is really also a vector for change. As in this world now, there's a need for a lot of solutions. We are seeing these issues in our health, in space, in the environment, for example. And biotechnology is the tool to provide us also with these solutions. I think anything in the intersection also between health and technology, it's a very exciting space. I mean, we're living in this very exciting time. The technologies are accelerating, the discoveries, and also indeed the implementation and bringing new solutions to people faster and cheaper. So it's a very exciting time now to be working on this.
As you mentioned, the exciting time with the technologies, which are the most fascinating fields for you? Because you mentioned you read books about microbiota, about this and that. So at the moment, which key maybe few fields in life sciences that you yourself see as a top-notch?
Yes, indeed. It's always good to be mindful of trends and what are the challenges that we will be facing in the future. And also what are big markets. So some of them that we see is, for example, aging, longevity, and improving the quality of life. Indeed, I think regardless of whether we work or when we retire, it might be later and later, we all deserve to be in good shape and enjoy a healthy life. So the other one that's part of this is that there's an Alzheimer pandemic coming with the recent numbers on Alzheimer and what it's predicted to be in a few decades. It's quite frightening, and especially for women, since women have, I was shocked when I heard this. Women tend to have a higher probability to develop Alzheimer's. And also women's brains tend to react differently to, for example, traumatic brain injury. So it's very clear men and women have different physiologies. And I think personally, it's high time that we take this seriously. And luckily, a lot of investors agree with this. So we're seeing more and more investments also going into this space. And as was mentioned previously, personalized medicine and diagnostics, and also predictive medicine. Also, patients are becoming more vocal. That is a trend that we're seeing. The patients want more adequate solutions for their problem. So technologies like wearables and sensors that can help to move away from the one-size-fits-all to more bespoke solutions. So that's the trend that we're seeing, the personalization and more affordable treatments. So it's also the combination of technologies that we're noticing that these are indeed very interesting investment opportunities also. And medicine, the future of medicine will be more driven by data, information, AI and machine learning. I personally think that I hope that we will step away from symptomatic treatment, and with the technological advancements, we will have better insights in the cause of diseases so that we can develop true creative treatments. We need new tools. I think it's very exciting that we can shorten and quicken time through drug discovery and development and give patients faster, more affordable and effective treatments. So, and indeed, as I mentioned, the intersection, so robotics, medtech, deep tech, and targeted drug development with clear maps of the genome, gene editing, very exciting.
So there's many topics in this field that are on top, yes, that are open for the market, and there's a big demand for new solutions in that field. While listening about connecting architects, I also really liked the the balanced team that you have, where you have 50% in the founders and as well in the board, as I understand, equality. And you've been working with many companies over the years in advising them, discussing with the executive level representatives and teams. How do you see, from our key topic today, women role in the company boards? Are they more involved? Are they not involved? Is there balance there? And if there is, what type of input this balance team puts in? What do you think?
Yes, no, indeed, it's I'm very happy indeed, and thank you for organizing this event. But indeed, it's something that we all have to keep raising awareness about, and keep also lifting up other women. And that the reason that I'm also here today is because of other great women. So thank you for that as well. And indeed, it's I agree, we all have a lot of potential, and it's now time to show this and to see what we're worth, our value, and also really raising each other up. It really depends per company. I've indeed been in some companies where there was a lot of awareness about indeed gender bias, and also providing opportunities to women. So if that already is ingrained in the DNA of a company, that really helps. There are also other companies I've seen, and which indeed still surprise me nowadays, to only see a company with really a board with perhaps 15 men. And I think that's quite surprising that nowadays indeed that these men maybe not are aware of how strange this might look. And in NASDAQ, for example, indeed regulations, rules, policies on this help as well. I mean, we have to all do something to indeed close the gender gap and really work on gender equality here. NASDAQ, they even changed their policies that in the board there needs to be at least one woman. So, I mean, that was not there yet. I mean, some things are sometimes still surprising, but indeed, I mean, it was only a few decades ago that women were not allowed to have their own finances or bank account. So we're coming from far as women, and it's really good that there are indeed these initiatives like this. And I mean, indeed, everybody has, if you have the ambition and if you have the willingness to learn, everybody can become a leader, have their own company, become an investor. We all have indeed this potential in us, and it's about recognizing this within each other and also pushing each other to maximize our own potential. That's also something I've seen in teams, that some women might be very modest, maybe don't have the urge to step in the spotlight, and then maybe are more in the background. Still, these women have a lot of potential. So if we can also give each other that stage, and that's indeed something that I enjoy when we're doing this together in meetings. We give each other, we really ask each other about our opinion. So respect is something that we really value very highly.
Well, we're very happy that you're sharing that with us and that you're joining us. And really, the invitation and all organizational teams are a lot comes from initiative of women. So we hope that it will translate and we continue definitely. I wanted to ask, from the point of the investors, how today's investors are looking at teams that are well balanced in gender. Or, for instance, how would they evaluate, does it matter if, for instance, the company is founded and run by a woman or not? From your experience, what is the investor's point today? Or they're looking only in the other criteria?
Indeed, it's that's indeed a very good question, because indeed I'm indeed, of course, looking at a lot of criteria. I'll indeed share those indeed at the end of the answer. That's probably interesting for some of the audience as well. An interesting investor that's interesting to follow is Jessie Draper. She's not in biotech, but still very interesting in what she's doing. And also she is writing articles on investing in women. That investing in women is not a charity. So she's writing provocative articles of saying that also from a business perspective, it makes sense to invest in women. And even there is research, I think also from McKinsey, that is indeed showing even that businesses run by women, they make incredible return on investments. So from an investor's mindset, that is quite interesting.
That's good to hear. I also read these insights, and of course it's based probably on the specific not skills but skills that women have, where it's empathy, then also trying to evaluate every step and be more constructive and evaluating the risk. So I think that affects into more efficient results as well. Talking from your entrepreneurial experience, maybe you can share, because we definitely have in the audience scientists and entrepreneurs that are interested about maybe creating startups or joining the teams in startups. Maybe you can give some advice related from startup perspective, not motivational one, but what are the key things that investors look in teams? Because yes, when the startup is pitching, there are a few things that are being evaluated. And if looking at the teams, what are the key things that attracts the most, that impresses the most?
Yes, that's indeed, it's a great question. And it's funny that one of the things I'd like to mention first, because it ties up to your previous question, is that indeed what is very important actually also for an investor is to know if the people that you're investing in, how will they use the investment? Do they know how to take care of the money, or will they burn it right away? And what is quite interesting indeed, if because you were mentioning the difference between maybe men or women or male or feminine energy. I've read indeed that in some of these research papers that perhaps some men, maybe they use some, maybe not the investment money, but indeed there could be a buying a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. It's sometimes more inclined to make splurges. And from this research paper, they said women are very careful with the money that they spend and budgeting. So I thought it was a quite interesting part. But indeed, this is very important for an investor. I've firsthand had experience also with this, learned a lot, indeed, what teams also to invest in and what not, and also need as an entrepreneur, how to build the teams. So it's one of the key parts is if a company or team is taking external money, they need to be very responsible people and be very careful with this. So that is at least something that we definitely look for. And the other things indeed are, as you noticed this already in one of the first meetings, are the founders or entrepreneurs, are they able to communicate their vision and plan? And are they also, do they seem focused or passionate and dedicated and committed to it? So it is indeed the question of, can they execute also on this? And do they know what they need to execute? Are they able to build a team around it? But also, I mean, of course, as I think Claire was mentioning it earlier, we have to realize we cannot do everything alone. We never can. We always need a team. Nobel Prize winners, presidents, they all know it. There's always a big team behind it. So also for startups and entrepreneurs, if indeed you want to start your own company or venture, find out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, make a SWOT of yourself. These are very good tools for personal use and also for as a company. And then find out what do you need also to achieve your vision or goal, and what don't you have in-house or your co-founders. Or also where does everybody fit in the team? Do they have also clear roles and responsibilities and the expectations? Is it clear for everybody? And are they all aligned on the same goal? Then if you find out what you don't have, where to find it. So it can be an investor, an expert, or smart money, they call this, a strategic investor or an investor that can help you. And then what do we look for is if, for example, as an advisor or as an investor, if I give certain advice to an entrepreneur or a company, are they willing to listen and are they willing to learn? And personally, I think this is a very important trait for all entrepreneurs. If you start your own company, be mindful indeed that nobody can do everything. And it's really having a growth mindset of listening and learning and being humble is crucial there. And also having a global and positive mindset for an entrepreneur is very important. So are you indeed, there will be challenges. So how will you deal with them? Are you resilient? And this can be learned as well. And do you have a global mindset? If you want to scale your company, grow, you need to think outside your boundaries and make connections or relationships, talk to other people. So that's also something that's another part of being a leader or entrepreneur, is making the connections, relationships. It's one of my mentors, actually, one of the first advice that he gave was always keep track of the people you meet. And that this can be in LinkedIn, for example. So always follow up. If you meet somebody, keep track, follow up, and keep them in your network or database. And if you do this your entire life, I mean, think about all the Rolodex that you will build up.
These are amazing advices that you're sharing with us. And I wanted to ask you, because we're also coming to the end of our session together, but we usually ask the advice for the audience. I would like to ask the advice for the organizers, because not just our Women in Biotech, but in general, all the initiatives that are related to empowering women leadership in the field of life sciences. Because one thing is to inspire. From your personal point of view, what might be as well effective? What type of activities might be useful? You kind of mentioned mentoring. Maybe something as well that is very important. What do you think?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that has helped me a lot indeed to always be learning. So indeed, after indeed you graduate, I think a lot of people listening indeed they perhaps went the academic route or a PhD or indeed are in research, or they have founded their own company, and you know indeed that life is a journey of lifelong learning. And this can be, you can learn indeed in different ways by doing, so by starting your own projects. And you can also learn from indeed finding peers around you that maybe go through something similar, or find indeed coaches, experts, mentors, people you can hire. I mean, I've done this also in the past. If you are in a space, I was living, for example, in at that time in a city where I could not really find the right people that I wanted. So sometimes you can find them online, and you can also hire coaches, for example. The other thing is indeed that after indeed learning is that you have to figure out also your why or your purpose, your values. I think this is something that really pulls you through the darkest moments, and we will always have certain challenges in our lives. So it's really about finding your own path and your own truths, because indeed we can, as the previous point, finding coaches or mentors. Very important to learn, but always really be authentic to yourself and finding your own truth. So do your own due diligence and not just copy paste from what worked for other people, because maybe it might not work for you. So really find your own answers, and with that, an open mindset, limitless curiosity and persistence, and do the work every day that will help you go towards your goals. And I think the people here in biotech and life sciences, they have an innate born talent of being curious and explorative and discover. So that's something that will help. I'm convinced about that. But it's really reminding indeed that small changes every day, we might not see it in the short term, but keep doing it and be patient, keep going, and trust your work will pay off. So having that clear goals for yourself, so goal setting or visualization can help as well as a tool. And something that I personally do, it's also something that maybe it works for me, maybe it doesn't work for another person. Tools like yoga, meditation, or healthy nutrition, spirituality, this can also help you reminding why you're doing what you're doing, and also trust and have faith. And because indeed, if you're indeed or an entrepreneur or indeed having your ventures, and it can be everything, it can be having a family, a company, taking leadership position. For me, it's always to keep going and to never give up. And it can be like walking up a mountain, and that's how I visualize it. It can be that sometimes it goes very well. The weather is clear, skies are perfect shade of blue, and you're very able to see clearly the path where you're going, the top where you want to go. But sometimes it can be foggy and dark. And a famous entrepreneur and investor, Mark Andreessen, said, it's darkest before it goes pitch black. And these times you remind yourself of why you're doing and find things that give you energy, and always remind yourself that this too shall pass. And entrepreneurship is like a marathon, so you need to be willing to go to the distance.
Thank you, Victoria, so much. These are very important advices you gave. And I would like to thank you again for joining us in Women in Biotech. And I hope to see you maybe next year in a live event. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Real pleasure. And thanks for organizing. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Well, Monika.
Okay, so the fourth speaker, final one, but definitely not the least one, is Georgiana Cosoveanu from Johnson & Johnson, Romania, a member of the leadership team responsible for governmental affairs. So, Georgiana, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for the invitation.
And I want to share from the very first moment that it's a special day today, and as I know, Georgiana, it's your birthday.
Congratulations.
So, really, congratulations and all the best regards from us to you. And on this very special day that you dedicate your time for us and for all our audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for for making me shining, let's say, from this perspective. Yeah.
Yes. We won't sing for you because maybe it's not our stronger competence, but in our hearts and minds, we are sending some a birthday song for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Georgiana, so it's really great to have you here, and it will be very interesting to talk to you about your story. You are now a part of a corporate, but also you are part of so many things that I still doubt that you are only a single person. So what I would like to ask from the very beginning is just tell a little bit more about your background and what you do now, what was your career path, because as I know, you moved from governmental sector to corporate, which is not a very usual path, but also you are a member in various positions of many non-governmental associations related to your professional activities and also to your, let's say, less professional, more personal interests. And also, I know that you are doing a PhD. So could you actually tell us more about yourself?
Thank you, Monika. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It is an honor for me to be here with you and to share with you my experience and to all the community today with us. And yeah, it is when it is about me, I try to put what I'm doing in one slide, and I will share it with you. And I will tell you the story of this slide because it's a story behind it, which I build it day by day through my personal and professional experience and academia. And I will begin with the fact that I'm graduated in international business and economics. And you will see the journey from here to health and what I'm doing in health in Romania and EMEA level. So I graduated in international business and economics, and I had also some postgraduate studies in international relations, international economic relations. And after that, I come back in the country, and I begin with the National Health Insurance House when it was the national pair of Romania, when it was funding in Romania, this institution under the government and government institution. And here I would say that I take the journey of 13 years. 13, it's a number, it's a lucky number for me. Doing international relations in health with the embassies in other countries, with bilateral agreements, negotiating bilateral agreements for social security with almost 29 countries at that moment, by the moment when we Romania became the member of the European Union. And also I took the lead in negotiating with the European Commission from the perspective of the national pair. And coming back during the negotiations with the European Commission, I took also the postgraduate studies in law because it was the acquis communautaire and negotiation steps in this respect. And it was important for me to know more this legal perspective. And because I wanted to also to learn about health and the academic level, I had a Georgetown University scholarship in Washington, D.C., and I studied about international financing in health, management and leadership in health. For 1.5 years, I was in Washington, D.C., studying and living there from also personal experience. I come back to Romania again, and this time in the health insurance house, I became executive director for the health insurance house at the national level, contracting and reimbursement of medical services, medicines, and medical devices. And it was this challenge during the time, also from the perspective of European Commission and European integration of Romania. And I took that master in European institutions and program management with master diploma from the perspective of European Union approach. That's why this is the continuous story of my life, I would say, of my educational and academic background. And after 13 years, I took the challenge. And I moved to the private sector. And when I said to the private sector, it is one of the biggest pharma companies in the world, Johnson & Johnson and Janssen division, pharmaceutical division. And indeed, it was a challenge, but it was a constructive challenge for myself in the story of my professional life. And I joined Janssen since 2012. And currently I'm a board member, leadership team member for Janssen since 2017 already. Leading also our COVID-19 vaccine in Romania, and currently assuming an assignment role in regional role, I would say, in Greece, Poland, and Romania, leading governmental affairs, collects in a so-called market access and external affairs alliance. Within Janssen, I lead also different committees where I'm member of. And in the same time, and you'll see in my story what is about, I'm part in different business and trade associations in Romania, and not only. Within these business and trade associations, I'm leading different working groups or committees. And for example, in AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce in Romania, I am the leader of the e-health working group, and also the financing working group leader, being a former deputy chair of this committee. In Belgian Chamber of Commerce in Romania, I am a board member. Why Belgian? Because Janssen division is coming from Professor Paul Janssen, who used to be a Belgian. And Janssen is perceived also from this perspective, a Belgian part. And this is why I'm part also in Belgian Chamber of Commerce in Romania. And other different important business associations, as Foreign Investor Council, which is leading with the investors in Romania, but also from the health sectorial perspective. And here it is about associations of international producers of medicines in Romania, or local American working group, which is dealing also with the health and pharmaceutical aspects. And currently, from the academic perspective journey, I'm in the third year of my PhD, because I come back to after some 20 years, I came back to my first school, and now doing my PhD in innovation in health and global markets of innovation in health and impact upon economics in general. So this is my story of my, let's say, academic and professional life, but also in the community. I like to join and to support the communities around myself. And since 2012, before joining Johnson & Johnson in Romania, I joined also Rotary International and one of the club in Romania, and currently I'm the vice president of this club, Rotary Club Cismigiu. And next year, 2022-2023, I will be the president. It is so-called president elected. What about all of these stories? So this story of my life, it is because of my family. And this is my family. These are my energy. This is my life. These are my way of being day to day. My children also. And here I put also the 4, because it was an important year for my son, who graduated the primary school. And for this, I spent 1 week with him, only us, during some days together in Paris, just to remember that when he graduated, we have our mother and son time in Paris. And also from this perspective, I'm involved in the school of him, and I'm part of the parents association of the school, and it is German Goethe German School of Bucharest, College of Bucharest in Romania, and so also part as mother, I'm involved in his school life, and I used to be also a board member within the college for 3 years. Because I wanted to be part of the communities and education of in Romania as well. And my little daughter, who will be 6 years old in November, is also joined and bringing all the energy together with my husband. So this is, I would say, the part of my energy, my life, my academic and professional, personal life. And I know that you asked me also, what is governmental affairs? Why governmental affairs in this respect? And why Johnson & Johnson? Why multinational company, big pharma? And it is about the values. It was about the values. When I joined Johnson & Johnson almost 10 years ago, I felt that my values are also the company values, and I was there with them. I mean, that's why during these 10 years I'm the same person, and I love my job and what I'm doing day by day because of our values and the values of my company. I do believe in, from the employees communities and the stakeholders in general. Now, what does it mean, governmental affairs? What I'm doing, in fact, it is about, and I tried to check on the internet, if I just Google it, what does it mean, governmental affairs? And it was interesting to see that indeed it is the same responsibilities I have as government, doing governmental affairs and seeing these 360 grades, as I used to say, from both perspectives, because I used to be in the government, work for the government, and now being from the business part, and the multinational company as well. So it is about educate. And when we are saying about educate, it's about educate officials, meaning also the governments with whom we're working with, about the business, about different organizations we are part of. In the same time, it is about educate business and industry leaders about the governmental process and about the politics, what is happening in politics as well. It is very important to know, to learn, and day by day to educate yourself and know more and inform yourself. And it is also about educate, this time governmental, business leaders and public as well, about the potential consequences of legislation. What does it mean in terms of, okay, if we have a legislation, what would be the impact for the business, for the patient associations in this respect, and offer advice. It is about, okay, what do you think about? And it is this advice, strategic advice, I would say, which is important for the business or also for the health system in respect to health industry and health development for the country. And that's why it is also from this educate of advice, strategic advice, and also advocating and debating with all the stakeholders involved in this respect. For me, going further, it is also about doing, and concretely doing. It is on one way, raise awareness to policymakers. It is drive the debate and activate change. I mean, it is a problem, it is an issue, you find the solution, you discuss it, and then it is about change, activate change. It is a day by day of doing. How? Creating partnership with different stakeholders, be a business ambassador, business diplomacy, because it's about business diplomacy in general, and also adapting to external environment in general. And here I put some keywords. It is about connect, shape, and grow, because it is important also for myself to grow every day by professional development, by my knowledge and academics, as you could see previously. And when we are talking about stakeholders, okay, let's see what should be my stakeholders. Who are my stakeholders for this healthcare environment? And there are a lot. And when I say there are a lot, it means the strategic ones in terms of building. There are trade and business associations, there are embassies in our case, in my case, United States Embassy in Romania, and also Belgian Embassy in Romania. It is the parliament, it is the, there are the international organizations in Romania, and also from the government perspective, the Prime Minister Office. So these are the kind of stakeholders with whom I'm working with. And also from the European perspective, there is about members of the European Parliament, Romanians, of course, and the level of stakeholders within our region at Brussels. All of them, it is how to build. It is about the trust, and it is about the reputation you build by yourself as governmental affairs, by myself, what I'm doing. It is about to gain the trust based on your work, based on your integrity in what you are doing, expertise you provide in general, and this will support you in building this reputation. And to have a seat of the table, in the discussions with all the stakeholders or authorities, and also Ministry of Health, for example, or the national pair, because now I'm working with the national pair in Romania as well. I mean, in different projects or legislation shaping, and it is very nice approach, you know, because I know how they are thinking, and I try to explain to them why it is about and how could be the approach also from this perspective. And when I said about trade and business associations, it is important how strategically you choose these ones. And how do you work with them? How do you inspire them through your work? And also, how do you drive the agenda or the priorities you might have in this respect to align with their priorities and to align with members' priorities? And that's why it's very important also from this perspective to be there and to be active, to be proactive as well. There are also some important steps in this perspective. And by the way, within LOG, Local American Working Group, where there are American pharma companies present in Romania, we have a project on biologics, and we are participated also in Romania in the Biologic Week with this kind of projects. So these are what is about this kind of stakeholders with whom I should develop the relations with in this respect, in building the health. And it is okay, so I'm doing governmental affairs for almost 10 years. And I like it the same. I'm doing governmental affairs with the same passion. I love my job day by day because it's a challenge every time. There have been a lot of changes in the countries, with the government, with the Ministry of Health, with the stakeholders I'm working with. And that's why it's a day by day challenge. I'm changing also this activate the change depending on the new governments, on the leadership change, or the sustainability in this respect. And I think that almost another 10 years I can do the same, because it's part of my DNA and my life. I will conclude this part with what I'm doing as governmental affairs, what I'm doing from the international perspective, because my background in international relations, and I'm doing international relations in health because we are also a company, and I'm part in EMEA, different strategy. EMEA, it's European Middle Asia, it's our region, and I'm part in different committees within our company at EMEA level in Brussels. And also in terms of business, doing business, international business in health and innovation, because I do believe that innovation, it's very important, and digitalization in health. Innovation, we are talking about innovation and digitalization in different industries, in different domains, but also in health. And I do believe that it's important in this respect to continue with innovating and digitalization in this. And my last slide, it is about my values and also the principles I believe in. And it is about contributing to change. In my case, to the health system development, to better diagnosis and treatments for patients. It is about this willingness and this passion in what we are doing every day, every moment in our professional life. It is important to collaborate with all, and to keep the trust in what we are doing. It is about information and increase your knowledge every day. Perseverance, because it's important to have an idea and to continue to believe in it. And even if there are changes, keep going in this respect. It's about the way of you are doing your work. It's about professionalism, and doing professionalism with excellency. It's about also excellency in what we are doing. And the last part, it is think globally and act locally. I took it and I will remember it, and I will have it with me all my life. When I graduated at the George Washington University in DC in 2004, a professor of mine, knowing that I'm back to Romania and not remain there, advised me and told me, Georgiana, you know, now you think globally, and for sure you will act locally in Romania. Now this think globally and act locally, you see everywhere in different industries, or coaching and mentoring and inspiring. But these are words which I have with me since 2004, and I will continue to have them with me. Thank you. This is about my short story of what I'm doing, and I'm ready to inspire and to answer to more questions you might have.
Well, Georgiana, it's obvious that, the story that you shared with us, it's a story that would be enough for at least 10 women, I guess. and my colleagues around me during, while you were talking, actually were shaking their heads in amazement about how much of the things you do and how important things. And I actually thought that US and the White House that was so close to you when you were in Washington, D.C. Has lost a great asset who could have contributed a lot to the public health, I guess, not only in Romania, but in US. And I believe that by you taking those more broader roles from geographical perspective, you will definitely in some way will come back to this very global level, how you can contribute, because you still have a lot of years in the professional life in front of you. So that's really, really amazing. And you told really a lot of things about you, and my question would be, well, it's obvious that you are challenging yourself every day, and by challenging yourself, you are able to achieve such results, such professional growth, and also thrive in this very complicated environment that you're working in. Because you showed the slides with all those government officials, ministers that have changed during the time you worked. That's a lot, and that's extremely challenging. So definitely you challenge yourself to achieve success in what you do. But at the same time, do you feel any challenges, any limitations in your professional life? Have you faced them? Well, you know, because you are a woman and you are in this very complex field where, you know, health and pharma interact, and there are a lot of high-level interests that has to be combined. So have you faced any challenges from that perspective, and also any challenges from your close environment, from, I don't know, your family, your friends, that maybe somebody was telling you, Georgiana, just, you know, come down and don't do so many things, because, you know, you shouldn't do that. So have you ever faced that, or you actually didn't care about that?
It's, you know, I'm a lucky person. I'm a lucky person. As I mentioned also, 13, it's a lucky number of mine. And I'm lucky that I'm in a company which believes in women and empowered women. And diversity, inclusion, women are very encouraged to lead by examples as well. So from this perspective, I could say that I haven't had any kind of challenge from the perspective that I'm a woman and I'm a leader in what I'm doing, or I mean, leadership positions I have also from this perspective. And I haven't had any kind of challenge from this perspective. And neither also in the business and trade associations I'm work with, or I'm lead some of them, because the women are encouraged to be part in the community and in the business life in Romania from this perspective. From the perspective of challenges of what I'm doing every day and how many things I'm doing every day, I'm a proactive person, and I'm energetic in everything I'm doing. And I think that, and yes, indeed, I need some rest, I need sleep, I need, we're talking about sleep, yes, but it's important to continue doing what I'm doing. I mean, I will don't know what to do if I don't have anything to do, you know, from the perspective of challenges. And that's why I believe that doing with passion, even if you are a woman, you could win in general.
Great. So you are also a mother of two wonderful children, as we saw from the photos. So do they see you as an example, as an inspiration? And do you get questions, you know, like, Mommy, how you do this and that, and why you do this and that, and I want to be like you, or something like that? Or they are more like challenging you because, you know, they want more time with you, maybe? So how do you feel? Do you feel like an inspiration, like also like a leader for them?
I spent a lot of time with them. I mean, and also during the weekends in weekends are our weekends, and there are only for us the weekends. I'm not working at all during the weekends. And that's why I used to be part of their schoolish life or kindergarten life as well, and I'm involved with them. And yes, I could say, yeah, very good question. Because now I'm very proud of my son. I mean, my son is almost 12 years old. And for example, in Rotary, I used to take him since he was 4 years old. Yeah. And now he is also in Rota Kids. It's a small for his age, you know, Rota Kids. And I was very proud of him when he was elected as president of Rota Kids. So maybe he was the one who saw me, who learned from me, doing with pleasure, not because I wanted to be there as a leader position. No, because it was the part of my life, and the people who recommended me in this position. And the same it is with him. And yeah, I could say that I have been examples for them and for my son as well, because my daughter said, you know, when I will be big, when I will have 7 years old, I would like also to be in Rota Kids and to have a leadership position, for example. So yes, I think that I could say that I am an example I'm an example for them as well. Yeah. And I learned them to act, not to criticize, but to think positive, to think constructive, and to be part of building in general and act in general.
So yeah, you are definitely an example for them. But in your life, first of all professionally, but also in your personal life, did you have any like role models or mentors or leaders who were, let's say, guiding you on your way and showing you that so many things are possible? Have you experienced that?
Yes, it's a big yes. It's a big yes. And I do encourage also others to be inspired by the people, to be inspired by the people they like. And also during my life, I have had and still had mentors of my life, of my personal, professional life. And when I say mentors, I choose them or they choose me. It was a way of thinking together, you know. And I could say that when I was the executive director of the health insurance house, at that period of time for 7 years, it was a president so my boss, my direct boss, it was a president. It was a lady. And in that 7 years, she believed in me. She has been my mentor, and since then she is still my mentor in my life. And also a professor of mine from Washington, D.C., who is he's also a Romanian as origin. So since 2004, he is also my mentor, and I'm very proud of being his mentoree, I would say, because when he came back in Romania for different projects, he's challenging me, he's taking me in different projects and involve me as well. It's very important to have a mentor in your life. Why it is important? Because he could drive or she could drive you on your way, on your journey, and also challenge you in different projects or in different activities you might have. So this is from the personal perspective, but also in my company, in Johnson & Johnson, I used to be mentor for others. We have different mentoring programs, and myself, I have also mentor, and I used to be mentoring for others, and also for students in different projects in Romania. I do believe that, and I recommend them to choose mentors for their life and professional lives as well. So my answer, yes, it's a big yes.
So you are extremely lucky for that. And well, I believe your personality, your optimism and positivity and all the energy that you do have, it also attracts people along the way to you, to mentor you or to be mentees of yours, and really keep in touch with you as such an inspiring person. But well, a very practical question. So you mentioned that yes, your family is a source for your energy and everything, but actually how you manage to get yourself together and move on every day, and what are your tips and tricks for being so positive and energetic?
I wake up at 6:30, prepare my children for the kindergarten and for the school. My husband is going with them, and when they are back, I'm here with them, for them. And when they are going to sleep, I'm coming back to my work. Just to give you what is going my way of one day practical. And I think that it's important to believe in you. And it's important to believe in you and in the goal or goals of what you are doing in general, for the business, for the community, for the society in general. And I consider that it's important to have around you that people who are also believe in you, but also who contribute to near you, to the community, society, and so on. I mean, it should have the same values. You should have the same values as a trick. You should believe in the same excellence in what you are doing. And it's important to have around you the people with the same values you believe in.
Great. And Georgiana, if you had all the means to change something in the health field in general, what would it be? I mean, just, like a wish that can come true. So what would it be?
I think that for health, it would be the infrastructure in health. And when I say infrastructure in health, I'm thinking about hospitals, I'm thinking about ambulatories, changing the paradigms from the hospitals to ambulatory services, or to moving from the innovative perspective to the technology or telemedicine services, which are part of the digitalization and also part of innovation tools and technology for health in general. I think that these are some ideas I could develop more.
Okay, so our time is coming to the end. So one last thing that I would like to ask you, Georgiana, is to wish something for our audience, our listeners who are together with us today and who will watch it later. And what would be your wish, your advice, or your message to, first of all the women, but also everybody, despite their gender or age or any other characteristics, that care about life sciences, biotech, and health, and all this well-being of our society. So what would be your message?
Think positive, be proactive, be a catalyst for change, for creating healthier people, healthier communities, and a healthier world in general. And do it with excellence in everything we are doing. As employee, as mother, as daughter, as sister, a professional, or a leader.
It's
be a
great.
catalyst for change.
Yeah, I think Agne, Georgiana did an amazing summary of all our event and all that was said here. So yeah, Georgiana, thank you very, very much. Once again, happy birthday and have a great evening with your family and kids. And all the best wishes to you. And well, I am sure that we will see you not only thinking globally, but also acting more and more globally and making enormous impact to a health sector all around the world. So thank you, Georgiana, very, very much. It was great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation and thank you so much for this initiative. I believe that it's a wonderful one. Keep going. And thank you so much. And I'm here for you whenever it is necessary to give you an advice or a feedback or a tip and tricks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, we're coming to end. I think that there are many, many other interesting stories and women to meet in biotech, and I'm absolutely sure, Monika, that we'll come back next year, yes?
Definitely we will.
Maybe even live, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Finally. Yes, so we met a really inspiring 4 females today that work in biotech, and I hope that for our audience, they deliver the message and inspire them for more proactive and more positive approach to their careers. And I would like to thank everyone for joining in. Those who haven't caught up of all of our 4 speakers, you will definitely will have a possibility to review archived video of this event. Please use our Women in Biotech webpage, winb.lt, and you will find all information there. I would like to take a time and thank everyone who made this event happen. Of course, Lithuanian Biotechnology Association, who is the organizer of this event, but also our partners and sponsors, our main media partner, Lithuanian National Television and Radio, our trusted partners, Enterprise Lithuania, Vilnius University Life Science Center and Thermo Fisher Scientific, international partners EuropaBio and European Connected Health Alliance, as well as local supporters Sunrise Valley Science and Technology Park and 2AM Health. I would also like to thank our broadcasting team, Operator.eu, with Gintaras Kralikauskas in front of the cameras, behind the cameras, and as well an absolute thanks for the team of LBTA, which was led by Kristina Glushchukaite, and volunteers that supported and joined our team in building this Women in Biotech platform.
Yeah, so we at Women in Biotech, the initiating team of the series of event, and also the Lithuanian Biotech Association, we are open for various kind of collaborations and initiatives, so feel free to contact us and share your ideas and thoughts, and we definitely can build something very valuable and interesting together. And once again, thanks for all the speakers today, and I believe with this event and all the events that will be coming in the future, we will make an impact to the biotech industry and life sciences in general, and really build a better life for our communities.
Thank you all and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Pasakojimai iš viso pasaulio apie žmones, kurie turi tikslą. Gyvenimus įkvepiančius vertinti tai, ką turime. Pastangas, kad pasaulis būtų visų ir visiems. Apie tai, ką reiškia būti žmogumi. Festivaliuose įvertinta dokumentika. Rubrika Žmogiškas mastelis. Pirmadieniais 21:30 per LRT+.